Our Ukrainian allies claim 19,546 reports of unlawful deportation and forced transfer of children in the occupied areas of Ukraine by Russia. Let me say this again. People in Ukraine and organizations are claiming that Putin's Russia has separated over 19,000 Ukrainian children from their families, trying to turn them into Russians. How can you end this war unless every child is accounted for? The purpose of the hearing today is to make a record as to whether or not this claim is legitimate. I invited the Russian ambassador. There's his table. It's small, but that's the best we can do. He didn't show up. So this dispute needs to be defined and it needs to be resolved. Again, you cannot honorably end this conflict unless you account for every child taken by Putin's Russia from Ukraine, period. In terms of how this conflict ends, I think it's very important that Congress review what has been agreed to, that we have a say about is this a good deal or a bad deal, that if there are security guarantees, which there must be, that we'll review those guarantees and see if we can find bipartisan support to make them continuing past the Trump administration. Those are two things very important to me. Every child must be accounted for, and Congress needs to have a look at this deal if we can ever reach one. To the Trump administration, thank you for trying to end this bloodbath. All of us know we'll never get a perfect deal. There'll be sacrifices made. But one of the sacrifices we're not going to make is to give Russia 19,000 Ukrainian children. That's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I doubt if anybody up here is willing to make that sacrifice. This is not about land. This is about families. It's about the very fabric of society. How would you feel if it were one of your children? What would you want the world to do? I'd want the world to get my kid back. Is that asking too much? I don't think so. As to our Russian friends, they have 210 facilities people have identified, 39 sites where children go for direct military training, 130 sites that deal with their re-education, making them Russian. I'm not making this up. This is 2025, not 1945. This is going on in 2025, and it needs to stop. Russia pretty well denies everything. They refuse to work with the UN. They block monitoring. They have done nothing meaningful to resolve this issue. They're stonewalling us all. They're saying it doesn't exist. And this was a chance for Russia to tell its side of the story. They decided not to come. So this hearing is one of the most important things that any of us will do in our time in the Senate and in the House. Deliver justice to people who've had their children kidnapped by a foreign power. We have legislation, Senator Blumenthal and myself, that would make Russia a state sponsor of terrorism under U.S. law if we don't repatriate these children. One of the definitions making a country a state sponsor of terrorism, a section says kidnapping, and this is kidnapping. So we're trying to come together, all of us, to make Russia a terrorist state because they're acting like terrorists. And I hope we can move forward on that soon, and I hope we can find a way to end this bloodbath, but we got to do it right. So we're trying to provide as much visibility as we can to our European friends. Do what we're doing. Have a hearing. Get your parliaments together. Create your version of a state sponsor of terrorism. Let's work together hand in hand. Let's try to find a way to put maximum pressure on Putin's Russia to account for each and every child. Every parliament in Europe should be doing what we're doing. Everybody should be having hearings. And so we don't have a minute to delay. Senator Schott's been great to work with. This whole committee has been great to work with. We'll do his opening statement. We'll introduce our first panel, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Chairman Graham, for convening this hearing and for your leadership on this critical issue. The systematic abduction of Ukrainian children by the Russian government is a horrific tragedy for the thousands of families victimized by Putin, but it's also an issue of global concern. Here in the Senate, colleagues on both sides of the aisle have been working to support efforts to track and return children and hold perpetrators accountable. That vital work continues, and I hope today's discussion adds to those efforts. But let me reiterate something that the chairman said. Any peace plan that lets Putin walk away from this war, having illegally seized Ukrainian territory, kidnapped thousands of Ukrainian children, and caused the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people on both sides with no consequences, is unacceptable. It would set a very dangerous precedent for the world, not to mention undermine future peace in the region. It is disappointing that the State Department declined to participate in today's hearing, but I hope that the administration will be briefing us about these talks very soon. As I noted, there has been a bipartisan effort to address Russia's mass abduction of Ukrainian children, and yet earlier this year, the Trump administration abruptly ended a contract which jeopardized the work to get critical data, including on abducted children, to the Ukrainian government and European law enforcement. It is one of the many instances where the administration has eliminated, undermined, or disregarded bipartisan priorities that are under the purview of this subcommittee, and why it's so important that we negotiate and enact a bipartisan state and foreign ops bill for the next fiscal year. The bill is critical for protecting American interests through targeted security and economic assistance for key allies and partners like Ukraine. And to do that well, the bill needs to restore transparency, strengthen the State Department's workforce, meet our international commitments, and ensure compliance with the law. We shouldn't have to wonder whether funds are being spent as we intended, or hear secondhand that critical efforts that we all supported are gone. For today, I'm interested in hearing from our witnesses about what's required to return, reintegrate, and rehabilitate Ukrainian children, and how we can best help. I'm also interested in how we can support law enforcement efforts, including national prosecutors and courts, as well as the ICC, which has indicted Putin for war crimes associated with the abduction of these children. I want to thank our witnesses today for their testimony, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Chairman Collins, would you, thank you for coming. Would you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend you and the ranking member for shining a spotlight on a truly horrendous problem. And I am happy to work with you in any way to send the strongest possible signal to President Putin, to Russia, that this is simply so wrong. It is a war crime. It is something that simply cannot be allowed to continue. So thank you very much for your leadership and that of our witnesses today.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Our first panel are our colleagues, two from the House, two from the Senate, Republicans and Democrats who have been deeply involved in this issue and every other issue related to Putin's war on Ukraine. And I thought it would be good to hear from you because you've been leading on so many ways. And Senator Blumenthal, we've had a great relationship over this issue, and it's now time to get some bills passed. Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you very much, Chairman Graham. I've been to Ukraine 8 times since the beginning of this war. Most of those trips with you, Mr. Chairman, some long